When he handed Binka a small vial, Binka carefully placed it on his chest. Yeah. I'll take care of it. Yes, my lady. I will write a response shortly. Rest for a moment, please. Capella, who had been smiling kindly, regained his cold face as soon as he turned his head. Miss. How interesting. Byron's real daughter, not the fake Isla, who had been tricking him into using her as a weapon of revenge. Isn't this the story of someone who took in his enemy's daughter and raised her as his own, without even knowing he had a real daughter? Capella sat at his desk with a bitter smile, facing the absurd situation. He was writing a letter to Byron, the man who had created this situation. So you ask for military support? Count Senespan read Capella's letter, muttering to himself with a serious expression. It was true that Byron's rebellion had to succeed somehow, as the situation in the kingdom was worsening, but he had no intention of taking direct measures, such as sending troops, so he was worried about how to refuse. If Byron is really a captive of the royal family, isn't the situation already over? If the chances of success were already so lost, there was no need to enter such hell. With that thought in mind, the Count continued reading the letter. But his face paled when he read the back. This was because it contained copies of the accounting books containing all the tax evasion and other irregularities he had committed up to that point. What is this? How long had this woman been researching such material? He thought she was an ordinary woman who did housework for Byron, but she was scarier than he thought. And his letter ended with these chilling words. This is only a small part of the account book. If you do not provide me with military support, I will send it to the king of the Inselkov kingdom. Wow, this is really... What should I do? The Count shook his head and shouted. In this situation, wouldn't it be inevitable to gather all the available troops and send them to the Palace Empire? And then... Your Grace. This is serious. The government troops, the government troops. A servant burst into the study door without knocking, making a fuss. The Count, on the verge of being angry at the rudeness, set fire to Capella's letter with an anxious expression in the midst of the outside commotion. The king's soldiers had invaded the Count's mansion. There he is, Ernst Senespan. You're arrested. While the man who seemed to be the commander gave an order to the Count, the soldiers pounced on him and grabbed him violently. Let this go. How rude is this? Count Senespan resisted fiercely, but was bound and dragged helplessly. As they left, the soldiers dragged away their beloved only son, Gerald, and his wife, who were screaming loudly. Let go of me. Did I tell you to let me go? Do you know who I am? I'm Gerald Senespan, heir to the county. They haven't come to their senses yet. Shut up, there's too much noise. As the commander spoke with a mocking smile, the soldiers roughly gagged Gerald. Phew. What are they doing to my only son? Can't you let it go right now? Despite being a stupid son who only caused trouble, the Count, who couldn't bear to see others being persecuted, suddenly became enraged, and the government soldiers also put a gag on him. Waiting for the Count, who had been dragged into the palace so miserably, was a stranger whom he had never seen before, the Crown Prince, the king's eldest son. Take off the gag. I want to talk. The Crown Prince spoke in a calm voice. The gag covering the Count's mouth was removed, and the Crown Prince smiled kindly and offered him a seat. Please sit down, Count. What the hell is this, Your Highness? Although I supported him in the slaughter of his enemy, Duke Batches, he brought me here in such a cruel way. It's petty revenge. They have hurt me. As soon as he sat down, Count Senespan began to complain. His face showed that he had done nothing wrong. Seeing his son and his wife trembling behind him, he felt even more resentful. My God, do you think I'm that mean? I am the one who has been wronged. I have solid proof of his betrayal. The crown prince chuckled and told a macabre story. Bah, betrayal? What have I done? Well, here's the proof. An accounting book detailing when, how, and how much Byron Lionel Vito Palace rebellion was supported. The crown prince laid the evidence before the earl's eyes. True to his words, the ledger contained a detailed record of Count Senespon's support for Byron. The count was momentarily speechless. He had certainly done the right thing. However, he soon discovered a loophole. He had supported the Palace Empire's rebellion, so he had not broken the laws of the Inselkov kingdom. I did it. And? What the hell did I do to the national security of the Inselkov kingdom for you to call me a traitor? You haven't come to your senses yet. Count, what did they promise you in exchange for this support? What was it? So they promised you the throne of this kingdom? The crown prince's eyes flashed with rage. If true, it would be an undeniable betrayal. How can you say that? No, do you have any proof? You say you have proof that I said that? The earl, who had been looking at the crown prince with trembling eyes, came to his senses and turned away. It was just a verbal exchange with Byron, and there was no documentation, so I could have easily dismissed it if I had tried to avoid it. There is no evidence, but there are witnesses. And the answer came from a strange man who was next to the crown prince. Judging from his pale face, he did not seem to be from the Inselkov kingdom. A witness. Present it. If anyone has heard those words. Unfortunately, Princess Weishafen is not one of those people who has a lot of free time. In any case, Your Highness, I have heard that the princess has certainly heard those things. If you need it later, I will send you a statement. The man smiled widely and chatted with the crown prince. The atmosphere was very pleasant, but the count, unable to participate, seemed disconcerted. Princess Weishafen? I've never met anyone like her. The count had also heard rumors about the Duke of Weishafen of the Palace Empire. His greatness had reached their ears, as it had spread beyond the borders. He heard rumors that the Duke had been desperately searching for his lost daughter, or that he had recently found her. What the hell does that girl have to do with the county? What nonsense. Didn't you know? That among those who came with Byron last year, was the Princess of Weishafen. I heard that your idiot son, ignorant of the situation, was caught flirting with the princess and received a brutal beating. How come you didn't know something I already knew? The crown prince clicked his tongue in disappointment. There was a princess among the group that came with Byron, and Gerald was flirting with her. Really? The count was speechless at the absurd conclusion. Was not the young woman whom Byron brought as a pet the lost daughter of the Duke of Weishafen? And Gerald, who had also realized the same truth, was also incredulous. No wonder the woman he had dismissed as insignificant was actually a princess. You're calmer now. So, let's have a deep conversation. Of what crimes could the count, who so shamelessly proclaimed himself king, be guilty? The crown prince crossed his arms and smiled happily. Hey, where are you taking this body? Suki Insidio shouted, hitting the small window that overlooked the stable. This was because she, who had been living in the underground prison of the Duke of Weishafen's villa for several months, was being dragged away in a carriage without any explanation. For someone who was being dragged, the treatment was surprisingly good. The carriage seats were incredibly soft and considerate enough to keep Pumpkin, a cat sensitive to his surroundings, from getting stressed. You can't answer me right now, idiot. Unable to contain her frustration, Suki let out a fit of anger, but unfortunately, there was no response. With a resigned expression, he simply sat in the carriage that was moving at full speed. And after a while, the carriage finally reached its destination. I was in front of an intimidating-looking prison. Come in. Overwhelmed by the atmosphere, Suki entered the building without even being able to refute it. Inside, a man with a familiar face was waiting for her. It was Roderick who broke her magic with incredible strength and captured her. It's been a while. How is the girl? We're not close enough to exchange greetings, are we? Of course, my daughter is fine. Although Roderick had a cold attitude, he obediently answered her questions about Isla's well-being. Anyway, wasn't it thanks to Suki that Isla was safe? If she had not lifted the curse on Isla, her precious daughter would have lost her life when Byron activated the curse. Yes, I'm glad it's okay. I caught the man who asked you to cast a curse. He had this. Did you make it for him? Roderick asked, placing the locket necklace Byron was holding in front of Suki.